Hello and welcome to Warcraft Daily for today, the 24th of September 2013. So in today's news, we have Raid Finder Wing 2, a whole bunch of interesting blue tweets, and a bunch of hotfixes, but these aren't any hotfixes. Pretty much every class is getting really large balance changes, and I mean really large, surprisingly large. So yeah, it should be pretty good. Now let's get into the show. So first up we have Wing 2 of Raid Finder. This has got Galakras, Iron Juggernaut, Kor'kron Dark Shaman, and General Nazgrim. So yeah, the next 4 bosses are coming up and I will have guides up as soon as I can get them. Now the only thing I'll say is that be sure not to nuke Nazgrim in defensive stance because it will make you a terrible person. And you will know what I mean when you get there because lots of people will and you'll wipe. Continuously, it'll be great. Now, let's talk about some tweets. So the first thing is about the heirloom weapons from Garrosh. Ghostcrawler said that the loot is pretty much like the personal loot system, even if you're in a normal or heroic raid, something like that. And the first time you get one, it will be appropriate for your loot spec. Now, it's after that, it's like completely random, you can get any of them. Now, the thing is, I'm not actually sure what the initial drop percentage is. I wouldn't want it to be ridiculously rare because I think it's a fair enough reward for getting to Garrosh on Flex through Heroic, so yeah, it's pretty cool actually. I think it's a really nice system, and it doesn't punish people that don't raid. Another thing, I've seen a lot of people that say, you know, that like they don't have time to do flex or something, so they should be able to get it too. And no, the answer to that is you don't have time, so you don't get it. Like some you know, in game sometimes things just have to be behind a wall of effort, and that's only fair to the people who put in the effort. At the end of the day, you still get plenty of game. So yeah, there's that. Now also they said this is about the logic in stepping up the difficulty of 10 player. Now it always used to be that 25 was quite a little bit harder than 10, especially in say the Wrath of the Lich King days where actually 10 had lower item level reward. So the logic behind the step up in 10-man difficulty is that they didn't want 10s to feel like second class citizens, so they gave them the same item level as 25s. But of course they didn't want the same item level to be available for easier content, so they brought the difficulty of 10 up. Now the problem is that ended up leaving a little bit of a vacuum in that there was nothing for the people who enjoyed ICC 10, and that was really just the scope of how much they wanted to put in. You know, as an example, maybe the people who wouldn't bench somebody because they're not that good. And that said, like, do guilds really do that much benching of people that aren't good? Whatever. Pretty much, Flex is designed for people who want to raid, but you know, they're the kind of guild that would never bench someone. And just to want to put in like the sort of more effort that normal would take, and I think that's fair enough. So yeah, I think Flex is great. It sort of reinvigorates the whole ICC 10. I definitely say that Flex is easier than ICC 10 because I did raid ICC 10, but it still fills that gap pretty damn nicely, I think. Actually, now that I think about it, I really like the first few bosses in the first wing of Siege of Orgrimmar pretty much feel like ICC 10. It definitely does step up in difficulty though, like significantly steps up in difficulty, which I think is a great thing. It's nice to have that curve. Now next let's talk about hotfixes. Now there's been quite a few balanced ones, and the reason, like I wouldn't normally talk about class hotfixes, but these are pretty damn big and I think you should know about them. So I'm going to run through them quickly, and yeah, now Druids. Rip has now got 20% increased damage, Nature's Vigil properly increases healing by 12%, don't think it was working, and the tier 16 two-piece applies a 3-second Savage Defense and a 20-second a 20 Rage Frenzied Regeneration when Barkskin Fade. I have no idea what any of that means, but hey, maybe you do. Now for Hunters, this is big. Chimera Shot has had a 50% damage increase, and Explosive Shot has had a 10% increase. For Mages, Ice Lance is up by 20% damage, and Water Bolt is up by 10. For Monks, Brewmasters now do 10% less damage with all attacks, so maybe they were a little bit too high. For Paladins, Eternal Flame, the Eternal Flame's Hot is now increased by 50% when using the Paladin, which is a nerf of 50% down from 100. Now for Priests, Shadow Word Pain now does 15% less damage. For Rogues, Assassin's Resolve has had a 5% nerf, and Sanguinarity, whatever the hell that word is, Vein, has had a 10% buff, which is nice. For Shamans, Flame Tongue Weapon attack effect now does 50% more damage, Lightning Bolt damage is up by 10%, and Wind Fury Weapon effect is 50% more damage. And finally penultimately for Warlocks, Haunt has had a 5% nerf, Wild Imp Firebolts do 20% less damage, and Immolate does 30% more damage. And finally for the Warriors, Bloodthirst has had its damage increased by 20%, and Raging Blow does 20% more damage as well. That's crazy! Lots and lots of big, well, pretty big balance changes in a hotfix, this in like the middle of the tier. I haven't really been keeping up on class balance since the patches dropped, so I don't really know if there were major imbalances. Maybe 5.3 or 5.2 levels, but damn. If they really felt the need to make this many sweeping, not sweeping changes, but I suppose very meaningful and noticeable changes, then there definitely seems like there was a little bit of a problem. Kind of surprised they didn't catch that in the PTR. After all, the PTR for this patch went along for a very, very long time. So yeah, there's that. What else to talk about? Oh, I may as well throw in at the end of the show and have a little quick word about the race to world first. Here's the crazy thing. Still on 12 out of 12 heroic. Method and Blood Legion are up there at 12, and a whole bunch of guilds are now at 11, and actually a lot got into 11 via the use of, well, probably via the use of a bug, like an exploit, essentially. Pretty much a whole bunch of the people who were streaming stopped streaming, they started streaming again, they got to 11, and apparently there's been a whole bunch of reports of a bug with, I think, Throck, or one of them. Anyway, it's kind of weird. So yeah, the current standings are for 25 man. I'll just go say 1 through 5. Method are coming in first at 12 out of 14. Blood Legion are second at 12, but of course they got there a little bit later. Then some Russian guild at third, Genuine fourth, Envy fifth, and Wraith at 6th. For the 10-man scene, Paragon is up there at 12. Depraved is at 11, Sanitas is at 11, Avast is at 11, Moons is at 11, and N Faculty Horde Liege or something is at 11. So there you go. Pretty interesting. Apparently, Paragon, it took them 195 pulls to kill Blackfuse. That's ridiculous. That's so much work in so little time. They really are putting in a lot of effort. But yeah, I think that's really about it for the show. There's nothing else to talk about. Interesting about those hotfixes. Do let me know what you think about them. I don't play half the classes that are there, so yeah, it'd be nice to find out. Also, should probably mention, sub boxes are completely broken at the minute. People are not getting to see people's videos, which is pretty damn shit actually. So yeah, that's a problem. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.